Thank you for tuning in. You're watching Arirang TV special coverage of COVID-19. I'm Min San-hee. Chain infections continue here in the metropolitan area, while news of fresh mutations of the virus have raised concerns over current treatment efforts, which is what we are poised to touch upon later on in our studio session. We start first with the latest numbers on the pandemic with our Kwon So-ah and related news this time with our Hong Yoo. So I understand we're seeing a slight rise in cases on this Tuesday.
Yes, and that goes for local infections because we are seeing cases stemming from churches in Gyeonggi-do province, for instance, which have been spreading to a daycare center there, as well as a traditional market here in the capital, Seoul.
I see. I hear we're also having new cases linked to a Russian ship, So-ah.
That's right. 4 Indonesian sailors on a Russia-flagged vessel have been testing positive in the southern port city of Busan, and that brings the total number of cases linked to that ship to 8. And with that, we have 34 new cases this Tuesday, raising the total to 14,660. The death toll remains unchanged at 305. We have 37 less people in quarantine compared to yesterday, and 71 people have made a full recovery from COVID-19. And now let's move over to our graph. As we can see here, today's number is the same as last Tuesday, but in between we have some fluctuations between the 20s and the 40s, and we're also seeing fluctuations in the proportion of imported cases and local cases. And as I said, we have more local cases this Tuesday. So let's take a look at our graph now, at our map that is. We have 13 in Gyeonggi-do province and 6 in the capital, Seoul, and combined we have 13 local cases here in this metropolitan region. And the biggest number of local cases we're seeing in Busan today with 9 cases, and that includes the 4 sailors of the Russian ship that I mentioned before, because this case has not been categorized as an imported case because the ship travels in domestic waters. And we also have 5 cases in Busan that yet have to be identified. Now, 5 out of 11 imported cases today, meanwhile, were from the U.S. And speaking of the U.S., which has more than 5.25 million cases now, with over 166,000 fatalities, and followed by Brazil at more than 3 million and India at 2.26 million. And this country is the one that's now seeing the fastest rise in daily cases. Let's move over to our next table now. A concern in Colombia. Daily cases are still not going below 10,000 here, and also Chile at 375,000 is adding some 2,000 cases on a daily basis. We are going to connect to someone in Chile later on. And let's now take a look at the total figure around the world. We have over 20.24 million cases with some 225,000 new infections in the past day, and more than 738,700 fatalities and 13.1 million recoveries. And those are the updates I have for now, but I'll be back with more after the government briefing. Sunny?
All right, so thank you for that. I'll see you back at the desk. Now, the Korean Peninsula has been hit hard by the summer monsoon, and up north of the border, flood damage, along with COVID-19 and international sanctions, is looking to aggravate the plight of people there. For more on this unfortunate reality, I have our North Korean affairs correspondent Hong Yoo here in the studio with me. Hello, Yoo.
Thanks for having me.
So, Yoo, let's start with the impact of these negative factors on North Korea's economy.
Well, Sunny, to begin with, there has been a lot of flood damage in the western and southern part of North Korea, such as the North and South Pyongan provinces and North Hwanghae province, due to pouring rain of up to 300 millimeters per hour. The regime in response has dispatched troops to these areas to minimize crop damage. Last year, North Korea lost around 458 square kilometers of farmland due to floods, and they were 1 million tons short of food. The American Friends Service Committee that runs a program helping North Korean farmers raise productivity said last week that flooding is a threat to food production. And given the added pressure of the pandemic and sanctions, there is a concern for food security among ordinary North Koreans. North Korea's borders have been closed for more than half a year now in efforts to prevent an outbreak of COVID-19. And so North Korea's trade with China has dropped by 57% on year for the month of July. It's not only trade, but also the tourism industry that has ground to a halt. Around 1.2 million Chinese tourists used to visit North Korea each year, pocketing the regime some $360 million in hard currency. Global credit agency Fitch Ratings predicts that North Korea's economy will shrink 8.5% this year, its worst growth rate in 23 years.
I see. Now, I understand that North Korea has also bolstered its COVID-19 containment measures amid the monsoon. Tell us more about this.
Yes, honey. North Korea's state newspaper 노동신문 reported Monday that they have strengthened monitoring areas near lakes and river for floodwaters and debris. The regime is also conducting water analysis and sterilization of sewage. They also have vehicles with loudspeakers broadcasting disease preventive measures to its citizens. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un convened an executive policy council meeting of the Workers' Party last Wednesday. In the meeting, he ordered special aid for the city of Kaesong, currently on lockdown over concerns of the virus. According to the North State media, Korean Central News Agency, over 550,000 relief items in more than 30 categories, including food, have been sent to Kaesong since the start of lockdown. In late July, the regime imposed preemptive total lockdown measures on Kaesong shortly after a runaway who had defected to the south 3 years ago returned to the north, allegedly with symptoms of COVID-19. And as a precautionary measure, the regime put the city under a complete lockdown.
Right, Now, it looks like North Korea is determined to keep its borders sealed until the end of the year. What other challenges is it facing then?
Sunny, in fact, UNICEF reported Thursday that they're having difficulty in progressing with their project due to the border closure and the regime's intensified disease preventive measures. Only 25% of UN employees in Pyongyang still remain in North Korea, while others are telecommuting from elsewhere. And due to the tight regulations on movement, the team has not been able to work in the field. UNICEF says with the COVID-19 pandemic, more funds will be needed for humanitarian aid to North Korea, but they are 62% shy of the $22 million needed for such project. WHO announced last Wednesday that a total of 4,380 people have been quarantined after a suspected case of COVID-19 in Kaesong. It added that the test results of the suspected case were inconclusive, but extensive contact tracing is being carried out. Among those quarantined, 64 first contacts and 3,571 are secondary contacts of the suspected case. WHO has requested the regime to share more information about the suspected case.
Right, I hear Seoul, for its part, is looking to restart cross-border interaction. Do tell us more about that.
Well, Sunny, South Korea's new unification minister Arirang pressed for the resumption of talks in regards to humanitarian cooperation between the two Koreas. During a meeting last week, he said that low-level exchanges in dealing with disasters in border areas could develop into much larger cooperation between the two Koreas. The Ministry of Unification, in fact, decided last Thursday to provide $10 million to fund a World Food Program project supplying food and nutrition to children and women in North Korea. This is the first humanitarian aid by the government after the inauguration of Lee In-young as the Minister of Unification. Let's take a listen.
This decision will mark the beginning of a steady humanitarian cooperation, different from those in the past that were short-lasting and dependent on political and military circumstances.
The WFP welcomes South Korea's decision to support their project. $8 million is planned to be used for nutrition aid and the remaining $2 million for job-creating projects.
All right, as always, thank you for that coverage. Hope to have you back here soon.
My pleasure.
Right, it's a little after 2 o'clock here in Seoul, and the briefing has started. We'll come back to you afterwards.
Let us now begin our regular briefing for August 11th on the COVID-19 situation here in South Korea. As of today midnight, we have 23 new local infections and 11 new imported cases. And the total number of confirmed cases now stands at 14,660. 71 more people have been discharged, while 626 people are in quarantine undergoing treatment, and there are 15 patients with severe or critical conditions. We had no additional fatality. Here are some updates on our domestic cases. First, in the city of Seoul, in the Gwanakgu district Incheon Nursing Hospital, we have confirmed that one of the caregivers has been tested positive on the 7th of August, and a total of 4 people have been confirmed to date. And moving on to the Gyeonggi-do province, in relation to the Bansok Church in Goyang City, we have 2 additional cases being confirmed, and one is a vendor from the Namdaemun market, while one is the worshipper. And a total of 33 people have been confirmed to date. And in relation to a Namdaemun market, we have additional cases being confirmed, and the Seoul Metropolitan City, which is governing this market, has stationed temporary screening clinic and are carrying out diagnostic testings. And we believe that on the vendors that have worked at these buildings, and as for the visitors during these times of periods which has high risks of infection, we ask you to get tested as soon as possible. More specifically, if you have visited this area on the 30th of July to the 8th of April, if you have visited the Kennedy building at the Namdaemun market, as well as the central building market in this market, and if you have suspected symptoms, you need to get tested as soon as possible. And also in relation to Rejoice Church in Goyang City, Gyeonggi-do province, we have 1 additional case, and a total of 22 people have been confirmed to date. And also staying in the Gyeonggi-do province in the Gimpo city, in relation to the Spring of the Lord Church, we have 4 additional cases, and a total of 12 cases have been confirmed to date. And next, moving on to the Busan Metropolitan City, and in relation to the vessel Yeongjin 607, we have 4 additional sailors being confirmed, and a total of 10 people have been confirmed to date. And also staying in the city of Busan, at the high school in Bugyong High School, we have confirmed that on the 9th of August, we have index case, and a total of 9 people have been confirmed. 6 of them are students, while 3 are family members, and we have 9 total cases, and we are conducting epidemiological investigation and analysis. Today, we have also in relation to the Gyeonggi-do province Pocheon military unit, we also have finished the terms of self-isolation, and we have some updates that we would like to share with you on the epidemiological investigation. And starting from the July 21st to the 3rd of August, we have confirmed that there were 22 confirmed cases in relation to this case. And we have 19 soldiers, as well as the rest 3 are just civilians. And 14 soldiers are in relation to a lecture. And also we had 5 additional cases within the military unit. And the channel of transmission, we have confirmed that the transmissions have been infected through the lecturer who has been giving a lecture, and we believe that this has spread through the time of lecture, and we believe that this has also additionally spread to other members within the military unit through religious services and also other activities. And we have confirmed that on the 16th of July, out of the 25 people who are at the lecture, more than 50% were tested positive. positive. And the incubation period on average was about 6.1 days. And these analysis shows, as we mentioned before, that there were infections. Actually, over 50% of the infections were also happening before they had symptoms. And so this is why we highlight the importance of wearing face masks and also keeping 2 meters of distance at indoors. And next, we have some updates on the imported cases. We have 11 imported cases today. 3 of them have been confirmed at the points of entry, and we believe that these countries were 5 from the US and also 4 from Asia, excluding China, 3 from Kazakhstan. Right now, we are conducting in-depth R&D procedures, and here are some updates. As for the blood plasma treatment, on the 10th of August, we have confirmed that the finish of the procedures for the candidate plasma treatment has been completed, and we have registered the clinic trials for this treatment, and we will commence the process as soon as possible. And in relation to the epidemiological data and clinical data on these patients, we have disclosed these data to 17 institutions, and additionally, we will disclose these information to additional 9 institutions. In relation to the data that will be released, will be those related to the risk factors of the respiratory diseases and viruses, and they will be used for these related research going forward. And as for Remdesivir, at 35 hospitals, 116 patients have been administered with this drug so far here in South Korea. And moving on to the life distancing measures and life quarantine measures, we have the Safety E-report, which is currently under operation by the Safety Ministry. And here are some updates. First, at the markets, most of the vendors did not wear face masks, and they greeted their visitors. And there were also many visitors who did not wear face masks, and these have been reported. And also within Kids Cafe, despite the fact that these places are not ventilated thoroughly and these are enclosed spaces, the children and the parents did not wear face masks on a proper basis. And also in relation to the door-to-door facilities, we have found that senior citizens, up to 30 to 50 of them, did not wear face masks and were chanting within enclosed spaces as well at indoors. And these were some of the updates on our Safety E-report application. And in relation to the military units, as well as many of the cases that have been reported through the Safety E-report, wearing your face mask is the most effective measure to prevent yourself as well as your loved ones from the COVID-19. And at all corners of life, whether you are at cafes, restaurants, or markets, you need to wear your face masks at all times. And it is all the more important to cover your face, cover your nose and mouth if you are indoors and enclosed spaces. And also, you need to also wash your hands thoroughly before and after wearing these masks. And we are continuously witnessing downpours here in the country, and many of the temporary shelters that have been provided to those who have been evacuated from the flood. We continue to ask for the managers to continue to check the users' body temperatures, and also aside from all of the frequently touched surfaces need to be disinfected on a regular basis. And we also ask all of the users to always remember to wash their hands and wear face masks and keep 2 meters of distance. And aside from the COVID-19, please be aware that there could be also waterborne and foodborne infectious diseases, as well as infectious eye diseases and skin diseases that could spread, especially to those victims. And we ask you to always wear boots and waterproof garments when you are working in these flooded areas, and always clean your your skin with through running water when you have come into contact with the flood water, and also get tested as soon as possible if you have symptoms. And we have been seeing many increase in the number of cluster infections at small group meetings, and even at the small group meetings at religious centers. We always want to highlight the importance of wearing face masks, and please do not dine together or share snacks together, and please refrain from having small group meetings in between these worship services. And we have some updates in regards to our regular briefing. We have seen many victims who have been victimized by the heavy rainfall. I extend my deepest condolences to the deceased and the members of the bereaved families. We are carrying out in-depth work for recovery. However, at this moment, we are still witnessing heavy rain. I would like to send my words of comfort, and please take care of your health as well. And the KCDC would like to note that we are concerned about the fact that the COVID-19 could spread at these periods of time. And on top of the high infectious rates of the virus, we have seen virus mutations here in South Korea, and the COVID-19 is continuously threatening the daily lives of our citizens. And it is far from being fully expected as well. And however, compared to other countries, we have very low fatality, and we also have great experience that we can curb and contain the virus through our life distancing measures like wearing face masks and distancing. And as our mass media are continuously to report, wearing your face mask and screening of the body temperature are now have become new norms in our life. And I am very relieved to see that these have become new normals. And even at the entertainment shows, TV shows, I was very delighted to see that there were TV shows in relation to the distancing, self-distancing and social distancing as well. And we also noted that in one of the TV shows, at the when they were having musical concerts, they also had distancing as well. And we also had TV shows featuring the safe camping as well. And we were very delighted to see such new TV entertainment shows. And it is very grateful to see that our members of the public are exerting their full efforts to comply with our distancing measures that have been proposed by the quarantine authorities. And we would also like to extend my deepest gratitude to the people who are working in the TV broadcasting as well for your efforts going forward. And the quarantine authorities will also continue to keep fast tracing and treatment as well. And we will make sure that we can overcome the COVID-19 even before we have an effective treatment and vaccine. We believe that we have the confidence to be able to contain the further spread of the virus. We know that the virus is spreading through religious centers. However, we believe that the local authorities are exerting their full efforts to contain the virus, and we will continue to ask you to wear your face mask when you are outdoors, and also when you are going to public indoor spaces. Please comply with the entry log as well as face mask wearing and checking your body temperature. Thank you very much.
Right, that was Kwon Junuk with Tuesday's afternoon briefing on COVID-19. So do tell us about the gist of his announcement.
Well, as local infections have become a growing concern, it looks like we have new cases related to churches again. For instance, one in Goyang, in Gyeonggi-do Province's Goyang, 2 more cases have occurred related to one church, and one of those cases was a churchgoer, while the other one was a case that was related to the Namdaemun market in the capital Seoul. So these nth transmissions or chain transmissions remain a concern, and there's been another 4 additional cases related to another church also in Gyeonggi-do Province. And again, staying with Gyeonggi-do Province, we had that military unit in Pocheon County where we had an outbreak related to military personnel there. And the self-isolation period related to that case has come to an end now. And it looks like in total there were 22 cases, confirmed cases related to this one. And according to Kwon Junuk, the KCDC Vice Director, what we learned from this case is that around half of the infections appear to have occurred while symptoms did not show yet. So another clear sign that we have to be careful of asymptomatic or silent spreaders. And another thing related to the Namdaemun market, health authorities are asking for people who were in this region from July 30th to August 8th or 9th to get tested for the virus if they show any symptoms, because they also have a testing facility now there at the site.
Right, that is good to know. All right, so thank you for that. We'll see you again tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Schools here in Korea are off for the summer, and prior to the pandemic, students interested in foreign languages would head overseas this time of the year. But such travel has become difficult now in light of the restrictions to stem the virus. Given these circumstances, a virtual alternative has been proposed. We explain in this report.
Kim Da-won is a university student who lives in Seoul. Ahead of her graduation, her goal during the summer break was to score high marks in an English-speaking exam. However, with neither study abroad opportunities nor cram schools being an option for her amid COVID-19, she has turned to virtual reality for help.
Yes, industrial, pre-programmed movements.
Although she is seated in the comfort of her own home in real life, she is connected real-time to a native English instructor in virtual reality.
병원에서 롤플레이를 했는데 한 명은 의사가 되고 한 명은 환자가 돼가지고 그런 식의 수업을 했어요.
Instructors and students from all over the world take part in English lessons together, thanks to the help of virtual devices. So what are some of the advantages of VR learning?
코로나 때문에 한 달도 못 있다가 다시 귀국을 하게 됐다는 친구들도 있었어요. 그런 점에 있어서 VR은 그냥 집에서 편하게 앉아서 할 수 있다는 게 굉장히 요즘 상황에서는 되게 안전한 것 같고, 다른 그 비대면 수업들랑 되게 비교되게 직접 내 캐릭터가 그 각 상황 안에서 진짜로 움직이고 하는 거니까 굉장히 몰입감도 높고.
All across the world, far fewer students are going abroad to study amid COVID-19.
아무래도 수요나 문의는 전년 대비 거의 80-90% 정도 줄어들었다고 보시는 게 맞을 것 같습니다. 예를 들어 저희가 박람회도 온라인으로, 그리고 설명회도 오프라인으로 했던 걸 웹 세미나라고 해서 웹을 통해서, 온라인을 통해서 세미나를 진행을 하고요.
Many countries have closed their borders to foreign nationals. And even if you're allowed in, school closures mean that many classes take place remotely anyway. Therefore, amid the COVID-19 pandemic, there's little difference between learning a foreign language either at home or abroad due to the lockdowns and restrictions on outdoor activity.
아무래도 유학을 갔으면 현지 문화를 또 배울 수 있는 기회가 있어야 되는데 온라인 수업이 되면서 그런 기회들이 사라진 상태고요.
Many Korean universities held the bulk of their lectures online during the first semester of the year, and many questions had been raised on whether the quality of the education was up to par.
코로나라는 큰 사태를 통해서 일종의 대학의 플랫폼의 변화, 소위 얘기한 디지털 트랜스포메이션이 현실화됐다고 저는 생각이 되고요. 분명히 비대면 교육이나 대면 교육이나 다 장단점이 있는 것이거든요. 예컨대 영어 회화 학습이랄지, 아니면은 음악이나 미술 교육이랄지 이렇게 많은 센싱이라고 하잖아요. 감각적 그 교류를 요구하는 그런 교육 환경에 대해서는 VR이 대안이 될 수 있겠다.
As a follow-up to this project, other courses aside from English will also be offered through virtual reality. VR also has the potential for future application in a wide variety of sectors, including entertainment and healthcare.
교육을 비롯해서 의료 또는 부동산, 인테리어 같은 이제 다양한 분야에서도 VR 서비스를 제공할 계획인데요. 실제 환경에서는 가볼 수 없는 환경들을 VR로 이제 실제같이 느낄 수 있고 체험할 수 있는, 교육적으로 많이 활용될 것으로 생각합니다.
New technology and innovations are making sure that students never skip a beat in their quest for learning, despite the pandemic.
Over in Chile, 4 puppies there are training to detect a new smell, COVID-19 in humans. The training is poised to end in mid-September, and these so-called biodetector dogs will be deployed in public places, including airports, this autumn. I have Professor Fernando Mardones from the Catholic University of Chile, which is collaborating with Chile's National Police for this mission, live on the line. Welcome, Professor Mardones.
Hello, Sunny. Thanks for inviting me.
Right, Professor. Now, before we delve into this intriguing approach to the pandemic, perhaps you could give us a few details about the COVID-19 situation in Chile.
Well, you know that in South America, we are suffering the consequences of COVID spread in many countries. And in Chile, particularly, we are getting into the 400,000 cases with about 12,000 deaths. We are at the stage of ending the first wave, but we are expecting a second wave maybe in the next few months. So we are, the government has started to getting back to normal. People are very stressed after 4 months of quarantine. So it's an uncertain situation right now.
Right, it is. Professor, now let's talk about this latest initiative in response to COVID-19. How was the idea of training dogs brought up?
Well, dogs they have an extremely good sense of smell. They have been trained for drugs, bodies, missing persons. But now this time we are it's starting to use infectious diseases like COVID. And this is not new. This is starting in France a few months ago. So we started to collaborate with them to train them actually. And tomorrow actually will be the first training with samples from COVID people.
I see. Professor, walk us through the process of detection by these dogs and how accurate are they?
Well, experience from other countries, they are in about 92-95% of accuracy. That's pretty good. That's near to the PCR test. The main difference, Sunny, is that we have a detection system that is early on. Your government, I was watching the news, and he highlighted the importance of asymptomatic or mild symptoms in the spread of the disease. And this is the unique feature of dogs. They can detect very early on the infection from an infected person.
Professor, I understand 3 golden retrievers and 1 Labrador are in training. How are they learning to detect the smell of COVID-19?
So we need to change a little bit the strategy. They usually are trained on the floor. And so now we need to create new structures at the level of the person. That's the first thing. The second part is that we need to make positive marks in a passive way. So typically dogs that are trained this way, they try to scratch when they found something, but this time we need to train them to sit down and sign when they have a positive detection. And so that's pretty much the main part of the process.
I see. Professor, what are your prospects on the widespread use of these biodetector dogs in the future?
As I said, the most important part is that they can be used to early detect. That's the very important part of this. And especially in a country like us, where people they gather together in many parts, in airport, buses terminal, in farmers market, everywhere. This is where you can use these dogs to detect those people that at the same time, they are risky because they don't take measures like using masks, or they just walk everywhere and with not showing even clinical sign. So this is the importance of having this detection for our country.
Right. All right, Professor Mardones, thank you very much for making the time to join us live, and good luck with the rest of your work.
Thank you so much, Sunny.
해외 입국자에서 검출된 바이러스에서 감염에 관여하는 스파이크 단백질에 대한 새로운 변이 3건을 확인하였습니다. 이에 대해 WHO에 보고하고 추가적인 분석을 실시하고 있는 중입니다.
Health authorities here have found 3 new coronavirus mutations. So what does this finding mean and what implications does it hold for treatment efforts? Also, on the subject of treatment, there have been cases of side effects among patients who have been administered the anti-Ebola drug Remdesivir in the country. For more on these latest developments, I have Dr. David Kwak from Suncheon University Hospital. Good to have you back, Dr. Kwak.
Good afternoon.
And I also have Dr. Kim Seung-taek from Institute Pasteur Korea. Good to see you again, Professor Dr. Kim. Dr. Kwak, as of last Tuesday, and I stress last Tuesday because at the briefing we heard that a total of 116 patients have been administered Remdesivir, but last Tuesday, out of 106 critically ill patients who were administered Remdesivir, 4 showed side effects. Now, these effects included slightly higher liver enzyme levels and skin rashes. As a medical professional, what are your thoughts on these side effects and on the number of people who were affected by them?
Right, so we have to think about what sort of people the Remdesivir was injected into. So the Remdesivir was given to people who were admitted to ICUs, people who are having the disease more severe. If we think about what COVID-19 patients actually go through, liver enzyme raising, the levels of liver enzyme raising, and also skin rashes. And also, we haven't mentioned it here, but another case was with the premature ventricular contraction, which means a irregular heartbeat that happened quite rarely, but it did happen. So can this happen did this happen really from the Remdesivir? We cannot quite differentiate that at this moment because patients who are having COVID-19 already tend to show rise of the liver enzyme levels already. Skin rashes can happen to anybody who's receiving, let's say, medications or even some ointments over the skin. Also, premature ventricular contractions, that can actually happen to anyone, especially in the male parts of the human beings, also possibly with 30 and above males. So I would say these side effects that we notice from Remdesivir, even though they are quite significant in numbers, let's say 4 out of 116, it's really not something that we can pinpoint to blame on Remdesivir. So I think at this point, it's safer to say that Remdesivir should still be used under possibly closer monitoring, but it's not something to the regard of where we should stop the use of Remdesivir on patients.
I see. Dr. Kim, do you agree with that view?
Well, of course. And then I think, as I said, the real life or real world experience is maybe a little bit different compared to the some clinical trials. But I think the Remdesivir has already been approved for the emergency use. And then we have to actually just monitor closely, but I think it should be okay. And then I think one of the sort of just golden rule for this in this case is whether the benefits from these drugs is outweigh the side effects. I think that's very important. Well, compared to the vaccine should be, safety is the number one. But in the case of a drug or drug treatment, I think this actually, the people are the patients. So if the benefits is outweigh the side effects, then we have to use it.
I see. Yeah. Dr. Kim, do tell us a bit about the other treatment options out there that look quite promising.
Well, I think obviously the people are developing several the treatment options. Some of them are actually very just worth noting, and because of the speed, and actually just monoclonal antibodies and then plasma therapy. Because the concept is very well established. This actually just blocks the interaction between the viruses and the host cells. So in terms of speed, those are actually just showing just most progresses so far. So that's why probably just deserving more attention. And then just in terms of drug treatment, most of the drug treatment, drug development at the moment is we are actually just addressing in 2 different ways. The one is actually the antiviral, which is actually just attacks directly the viral replication. And the other way is actually just anti-inflammation. Sort of just this is actually just for the purpose of reducing excessive immune responses. And this is the case for dexamethasone. And then for the antiviral, that's the best example is the Remdesivir. And then There are other just drug candidates still on the some clinical trials, and then one of them is I said actually the before, and that is called the EIDD 2801, and this is very similar to the Remdesivir in terms of a mechanism of action. This actually inhibits the virus the genome replication, but the Remdesivir is actually administered by the IV in the injection. But that this drug is orally available. So if the drug is orally available, which means this can be actually taken when the patients, just mild case patients. So this might be a very good candidate, and then this drug is also in the currently just the phase 2 clinical trials, and we are still just waiting for the results.
I see.
Yeah.
Dr. Kwak, as I mentioned earlier, authorities here yesterday announced the finding of 3 new alterations in the part of the genome that is responsible for the spike protein, which not only gives the virus its crown-like appearance, but it's also responsible for the virus's ability to invade human cells. Could you tell us more about these mutations?
Sure. So these mutations are not entirely new in fashion because we've already detected many new strains before, as in the mutations into GH and S strains and whatnot. So these 3 mutations that we just started noticing are actually from the, I believe it was either Pakistan or some other countries, but I could be wrong, so let me rephrase myself. But anyways, so these mutations under the laboratory studies have found to be much more infective before, meaning in the strains GH were found to be 600 times as much as effective as the other strains. Now, does that really matter here? We've already noticed from the actual reality that it did not impact us in a way that was expected in the laboratory settings, meaning we did not see 600 times of explosion in the infections within the country. So with these new strains also, I wouldn't say that we have to worry for more effectiveness or more severity of the illness, but rather it's something to know scientifically and to better prepare ourselves possibly for treatments. But for at the time being, I don't think we should be worried that these new strains just suddenly occurred.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Kwak, neighboring Japan has been reporting 1,000 cases daily in recent days, and health experts there appear to believe that it's because of a new mutated virus. Do you believe mutations may be fueling the rapid spread globally?
Well, it can be, but I'm not going to say that it is actually due to that, solely due to that, because if we could compare these 2 countries, from us to Japan, we have taken a drastically different measure. For instance, in Korea, we were able to mitigate the virus by quarantining in facilities, in social facilities of anybody who has been diagnosed with COVID-19. As opposed to Japan, they were keeping the regulations to keep people who are diagnosed self-quarantining. Also, in the contrary to what Korea was doing, Japan was actually promoting domestic travels and whatnot. So I think all these different factors could count into what really happened in Japan in the result. We can't really pinpoint to, again, only the mutations of the strains to the numbers of what's really happening in Japan. But it's more of how well we're keeping to ourselves, how well we are working towards mitigating the virus altogether as a nation.
Right. Dr. Kim, do mutations of the coronavirus render our current treatment efforts invalid?
Well, first of all, I think I have to say that the viruses do mutate. I mean, this is very natural phenomenon that in this case, the virus used to be, well, as far as we know that it used to be in the bat, but now in the new host, in the human. So once the host environment changes, then viruses do mutate because in order to just replicate efficiently. So basically just the mutation is not a real, just some bad thing. This is a very natural thing, but then we have to figure out whether this mutation or variation is really pathogenic or not. And in terms of drug development, I think, depending on the point, depending on the location of the mutation, our drug development may be just some affected. Just for example, while all the mutations so far is known to exist at some spike protein, which is a surface. surface glycoprotein. In this case, I think maybe some monoclonal antibody therapy or like some plasma therapy, but probably for the plasma therapy, in this case, a polyclonal antibody, maybe the less affected. But anyway, those drugs that target some interaction between the viruses and host might be affected by such a variation. And also maybe just a vaccine development might be affected. But if we target some different the viral proteins or some like host factors, the mutation would not affect a lot, for the drug development.
I see. Well, that's good to know. Dr. Kwok, statistically speaking, it took the world 6 months to record the first 10 million cases, and it took it merely 43 days to note the next 10 million cases. The rate is alarming. Should we be worried?
Well, that's the typical scheme of how virus spreads, though, really. If we think about it, when a person infects other 2 people, the 2 people will go on to infect other 4 people. So it actually grows exponentially for the virus spread. But in this case, we're actually seeing not doubling of the numbers. We're actually seeing what we call R0. We're looking at a possible 1 person infecting 3 others or possibly 4 others. So if we measure that into the speed of the virus spread, this is not entirely unexpected that the number could suddenly grow much faster. It doesn't necessarily mean the virus is actually spreading faster itself, but it's more likely that people are infecting others just in a natural course, but the numbers are growing.
I see. All right, Dr. Kwok, as always, thank you for your thoughts. And Dr. Kim, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Right, on that note, we end Tuesday's coverage of COVID-19. Now, today, in fact, marks our 100th edition. Hopefully, we'll see a happy end to our program in the near future. Do join us again tomorrow at this hour as we assess Korea-China ties on both the diplomatic and economic fronts amid the pandemic. Thank you for watching.